We are here 10 minutes late. I'm very sorry. There was a fight with a train or something along those lines. But we are here to talk about the new Tyranid Index that dropped today. Are you excited about this, Chris?
I am so excited. I have come from having zero interest in Tyranids to a few months ago sending Tom off into the snow to go and pick up a army of Tyranids for me at quite a good deal. And they have sat in that box for a few months now whilst Tyranids rampaged across the known universe and then meekly ran away after they apparently became too expensive. And I've just started painting them up because rumor has it that Eldari might be too strong, and if they end up getting banned in every tournament I want to take them to, then I'll have to take someone else, won't I? So
Chris,
maybe
Chris,
we should.
no one on our team is enough of a dickhead to play Eldari. And
Yeah,
there's
no,
definitely not going to be any.
no,
No, let's
no,
just put
not
that back
not yet.
out of
Not
shot
yet.
for plausible deniability. All right, fantastic. So, this is a different face to what you might have been expecting. Friendship ended with Davy. Now Chris is my new Nid best friend. And
Yeah,
that is
fuck you,
because
Davey.
Davy has fucked off to. Is it Turkey he's in?
Yeah,
He's on
belly
holiday somewhere.
dancers, something. I don't really know.
Which, dick move, bro.
Yep.
I have rules to talk about. How dare you? So, what we're going to do is I'm not going to read every single bit of text in this, I think, 94-page PDF. It's a lot of words. I'm going to pick out some bits that are interesting, and then I'm going to pass it over to Chris to give some opinions. Oh, he's in the chat. Oh, no, he was in the chat 41 minutes ago.
41
Never
minutes.
mind. Yeah, I just read it's like, oh, okay, I've been paying attention. Yes, so I will read out a couple of bits. I'm going to pass it over to Chris, who is some fresh eyes on Tyranids. And then we'll, have a bit of back and forth. I think that's going to be more interesting than someone who played them at their peak in ninth edition, because anything that isn't as busted as that is kind of going to feel like a step down. So it's going to be interesting to get the untainted opinion of Chris before we go on. So we have got some rules here, and these are the ones that have been previewed already. We have already seen them. So Synapse, just to briefly summarize, it is a 6-inch bubble of a model with Synapse, and that makes your leadership test, your battle shock tests more reliable. You do it on a 3d6 instead of a 2d6. It's going to make it quite easy to pass those, I think. And then Shadow in the Warp, once per battle, you can unleash Shadow in the Warp in either player's command phase, and then every enemy unit has to take a battle shock test. This is obviously important. If you're battle shocked, you can't hold objectives, your OC drops to 0, you can't use strats on them, and I believe you won't be able to do some secondary scoring as well, but I'll be honest, I haven't looked deeply at those yet. It's something that you can pop after they've already done the battle shock tests for their units. So
I was
if
going
you've
to say,
managed
is
to,
that can you to make them basically do two?
oh yeah, yeah, if you've managed to chip away at a load of models and they've got a load of half strength ones, take the test. Some will fail. Maybe they'll spend the CP to auto pass the battle shock after they've failed it. And then you go, cool, Shadow in the Warp. Thanks for spending that CP. Take the test again. Sucks to be you. Can't use the strat again. So that's that. Any thoughts on that? It's fairly.
Yeah, I think the fact that you can do it twice, we still at this stage don't know the impact or how important Battle Shock will be,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it could be. Obviously, some armies are going to really enjoy being Battle Shocked, I imagine. They'll probably get buffs, and then some armies will absolutely hate being Battle Shocked. So I think it's going to be a really interesting
You
dynamic.
think that some armies will get buffs for being battle shocked?
Yeah, well, it makes sense, right?
No.
No? Okay, I reckon it does.
Hey, I could be completely wrong.
I
I haven't
think
seen all the rules yet.
I think that just the way they write rules, I think
Okay.
that there's going to be some bonuses.
I think that's an incredibly wild hot take, but I don't think you're wrong to perceive things that way. I just man, you've really thrown me there. It's good to be battle shocked. Well, we'll see. We'll see. And if you're wrong, I'll come back and taunt you for it. And if you're right, I will conveniently forget that you called it ahead of time.
Absolutely, therefore.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I do like is you've got it. It's a tool you can use it either in your phase, which is obviously nice because you can, you know, turn off their obsec when it comes around to their turn, and or no, vice versa, and you can do it on your turn. Whatever. I had a thought, and then I saw
Well,
something shiny out the
potentially
corner of my eye.
they could be looking like they're going to be able to go and steal some of your objectives, and then if you battle shot them, in their turn.
Yeah, what I was trying to verbalize is you can stop them using defensive strats. That was what many word failed to say. We have got the first invasion fleet detachment rule. I think they have said that there is going to be one that favors swarms, one that is going to be favoring big bugs later on down the line. But for now, this is what we've got. It is you pick one at the start of the battle, and you get either sustained hits against infantry and swarm units. If you pick the swarming instincts, hyper aggression, you get lethal hits against monsters and vehicles, and then hive predators, you get precision on your critical hits, which is usually 6s to hit. Obviously, we've seen these already. Not really much.
So you just get to choose those depending on what your army.
Yeah, basically. So you pick it after you've seen your opponent's army. If you're playing against Custodes, you're probably going to go for the lethal, the sustained hits. If you're playing against, I don't know, Guard, and they've got infantry characters in every squad, you might go, ooh, precision, and we're going to eat them to pieces. So it does come with 7 strats. The first of which is rapid regeneration. So something before we go into it, I will say is I am a little concerned about the tankiness of this army, because we've lost Onslaught, or of what Onslaught previously did, which was allow a unit to advance and charge. That was one of the psychic powers that NIDS have had for as long as I can remember them. I think at least back in 5th they had that. And then also Catalyst, which gives a 5-up Feel No Pain. What they have now is a 1 CP strat that you can slam. It's locked to a phase, and it gives a 6-up Feel No Pain, or if they're within sign-up range of another unit, something with sign-ups, it gives a 5-up Feel No Pain. That's very nice, but previously it was a spell that you could just cast on a unit and it was there, and it wouldn't cost you CP.
Right, yeah.
That said, given how things are looking to be less lethal, just being able to slam a 5-up Feel No Pain on a key unit, I think is going to be incredible. It's going to be really nice to put it on a big unit of Tyrant Guard, for example, which is where you're going to put your characters. Yeah. Any thoughts on that one?
5-up Feel No Pain is one of the few things I do recognise about Tyranid. When don't they ever try and cast Catalyst every single turn?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it kind of makes sense for that to be an option. And, yeah, as you say, in a world where things are, in theory, less killy, then any addition to survivability is going to...
I think there are going to be 2 armies that shake that mold, but we'll talk about them as we come to them. But NIDS, if NIDS are a sort of picture of things to come, I think the game will be less killy. There are some things that upset me to see, but that's personal bias, not because I think it's bad.
Yeah.
Then we've got Death Frenzy, 1 CP again. After an enemy unit has selected its target, so you have to call your shot before the models die, you pick a Tyrannid's unit, and on a 4+, when a model in that squad dies, it can fight on death.
So yeah, so that 4+ fighting on death feels bad, I guess. So I guess it's that last ditch thing with the character, or just the big units of killy stuff.
Yeah, I think it's something I like more for the units. Having it on a big bug, you'll use it.
Efficient.
When it's like, oh god, if you
Backs
kill
against
me
the
here,
wall.
yeah, you don't want to do it, but you will. But I think you'll feel quite good about it if you have, for example, a squad of warriors or something, and you're expecting to lose 5 or 6 of them. That's going to feel fairly worthwhile. Lovely stuff. Just a quick. We actually have got some people commenting in the chat. Elo Wazzle says Neurogaunts are still trash. That is correct. Kelmara says tasty content. That's very fitting for the NIDS. Existence UK. Demons healing when battle shocked. That was in response to your hot take, Chris. Sure. I mean, it's the more I talk about it, the more the idea upsets me that failing a test gives you a buff. But we'll leave that one there until we've seen the rest of the rules, I guess. Philip says, "Evening, guys. Evening to you as well, Philip. Death Frenzy on Gene Stealer. Yeah, no, that's a good shout. Gene Stealers do have a bucket load of attacks, so that's probably a good one." And then Galmar says, "Gene Stealers love it, Tyrants don't. 1 CP good." Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So, back to the strats. We've got a 2 CP strat here. This is expensive, but it does give you quite a big buff. In the fight phase, you pick up to 2 Tyranid units from your army that are within synapse range of your army and eligible to fight, or you pick just a single squad. So if you're within synapse range, you can get more buffs. So there's benefits to it other than just you pass battle shock more frequently, which is quite nice and thematic. And you get critical hits on unmodified 5+s instead of 6s.
Is that auto wounding?
So critical hits is just an unmodified 6 normally. For context, if we just quickly flick back up here, the hyper adaptations, all of these key off critical hits. So sustained hits,
Okay.
you'll be getting exploding hits on a 5. Hyper aggression, you'll be getting auto wounds on a 5. Hive predators, you'll be eating characters on a 5. So, and you can put that on 2 units there as well.
Okay. I mean, yeah, 2 CP. I don't know if there's many ways in this book of getting extra CP. So
there are none.
So yeah, I guess
unless I've missed something.
If you've got units which will be able to use it efficiently, but 2 CP seems quite steep.
It is, but I think the level of the buff you get there is probably going to be worthwhile. It's the sort of thing that I can see you really stockpiling CP for. I think it'll be worthwhile to do that. And then we have got, tell you what, I'm going to go straight to Synaptic Insight because that kind of pairs with it. This is 1 CP, and you pick it in your command phase. So again, you've got to kind of call your shot a little bit here. Again, you pick up to 2 units within Synapse range or just 1 single unit that isn't in Synapse range. The effect is you pick a hyper adaptation that isn't one that you've already got on the units, and until the end of the battle round, that hyper adaptation is active for those units. So, for example, if you decide this is the turn that I really want to kill those characters, I'm going to slam that. I'm going to give 2 units precision. I'm going to try and pick them out of the squad.
Yeah.
And then when you've got double buffs that explode on 6s, then when you go back to Adrenal Surge, I think this is going to be, and it's a 3 CP combo, but, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of value to get out of that one if you can maximize that there.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you say, I guess it's just as you play, as you guys, you know a bit more, but there'll be certain units where this lends itself to, and you're going to get a lot of efficiency on. So it's just about trying to find those units which can give you the most efficiency for your CP. There's a lot of the fight phase, basically.
Yeah. What we're seeing here is that NIDs are less good at shooting than they have been, especially in last edition where you just slam a load of heavy venom cannons and go. But they're looking like a melee faction, and obviously now Psychic's kind of been rolled into shooting. That, which is something I don't love personally. We're going from NIDs being a 3-phase army to being, it feels like maybe a bit of a 1.5-phase army. It doesn't make them bad. It's just something that I really enjoyed about the faction.
I was going to say, like, the reason I mean, I don't have this thing of, like, I'm super into aliens or anything. Like, the thing that appealed to me about Tyranids was that they played across all of the phases. And they had big bugs, they had little bugs, they had the medium stuff, they had combat, they had shooting, they had good psychic. And I liked the fact that that went across all the stages. So that we have, like, they seem like a very well-balanced, all-round kind of army. And that seems to might be slightly changing.
Yeah, I think it depends on points costs, because don't worry, there are some absolutely bonkers shooting stuff in here as well. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
1 CP, Overrun. This is pretty similar to how it was before. Basically, you pick in the fight phase after a Tyranid unit consolidates, or as it consolidates, pay a CP, and you get to consolidate 6 inches instead of 3. If you have killed off the unit that you've attacked, or if you're not in engagement range, basically, and you're within synapse range, you can instead make a normal move of up to 6 inches.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is less effective than old Overrun.
Yeah.
But consolidation is now really fucking shit.
Yeah,
it's so much worse.
Yeah.
So if you can position this so that you can spend a CP and you can just make a 6-inch normal move after you've killed something, and you've got to be within synapse range, maybe you're going to try and put together a bit of a Death Star, depending on points, of Tyrant Guard with Tyrant in. The Tyrant's got synapse, so you're definitely going to be within 6 inches of synapse there. That's the sort of thing where you might just go, cool, I'm going to roll into something and then I'm going to move 6 inches and I'm going to take you off that objective or position for a secondary. So I think this is, you might not even use it every game, but I think it's a great tech piece to have in your back pocket for when it's useful.
Yeah, agreed.
And then finally, Endless Swarm, which is, it's just every Necron's wet dream if they got this as well as the normal reanimation. Spend a CP in your command phase, pick up to 2 Endless Multitude units within synapse range, or again, just one that isn't, and return up to D3+3 destroyed models. And the Endless Swarms, that's your Gaunts. So your Neurogaunts, Hormogaunts, Termogaunts, I think the Barb Gaunts as well.
Okay.
No, not the Barb Gaunts. The floaty boys, flappy boys, gargoyles.
Okay.
There we go. So this is going to be super terrain dependent, but if we see anything like the UKTC ruins remaining, where you can just string out 3 models, and then and it's going to be really hard to kill an entire squad of 10 gaunts that are sat in cover, and then suddenly you're like, oh great, cool, I just can't interact with this unit unless I charge it. That's going to be fun for the whole family. A CP well spent every time round.
I think those are. I think the interesting is how heavy, and I assume this has always been the case, but how heavily they're pushing like the synapse. Like 1 CP to get to do quite cool things on 2 units.
Yes,
That's
I really
really
like that.
efficient use of CP, but it's relying on you to have that placement. I don't know what the range is of synapse. I don't know
6
how
inches.
many. Okay, 6 inches. I don't know like generally how many synapse or synaptic creatures you'd usually have, but it feels like you're going to be able to get really good efficiency of those stratagems if you have the right kind of balance.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it really depends on the points of the synapse units. If there are some quite efficient ones, you might end up just seeing them spammed the way that Tyranid warriors were for Leviathan. And hey, my entire army's in synapse all the time, so my rules that key off that, my imperatives, I don't even have to think about it. Or you might have sort of towards the back end of 9th, where synapse is actually a lot harder to come by, and it makes keeping those synapse chains up a lot more difficult, and you've got to think about it more. And then you just have Tyranid players losing loads of games.
Yeah. All I know is like whenever I've played against Nids and you just assume they just auto pass all morale.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, suddenly they're having to take a leadership test. You're like, wait, what?
And they had like leadership 5 or something in the old rules, which is just bad. But yeah. So good set of strats there, I think. I like
they're
those.
all. I mean, you'd hope that, wouldn't you? Right, when you've only got 6 or whatever, you're not going to hope for any tough ones. So
I thought there was only going to be 6 per, but there's 7 there. I wonder if that's because they don't get the benefit of smoke and grenades, which are 2. I don't know if that's the case, but maybe if you don't get those rules, you get an additional strat in your book, or maybe they just went with 7. Maybe it means nothing. Who can say? So on to the enhancements. Every army's going to
get points for enhancements.
I believe that's been confirmed.
Okay.
But I think they've really said much else. We don't know how many you're allowed to take, whether you could take all of them, or if you're capped. Don't know how much they're going to cost.
Okay.
I would assume you could probably pick, let's say, 1 to 3, and they cost 15 to 30 points each. Something along those lines.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you've got a good range here. Alien Cunning. It is a redeploy after both armies have deployed.
Love
3
a
units.
redeploy.
Love a redeploy. This is before first turn is called, so we're back to that rule. But so I don't know that we'll see that. That doesn't feel too valuable to me, unless maybe you're looking at playing a lot of forward deploy.
I was literally going to say, like,
oh no.
The Eldar in me is like striking scorpions. Oh, that's a shame. Didn't get first turn. Let's pull them off the board or put them back into deployment zone.
So the sad news is you don't know who got first turn when you did the redeploy. The good news for the Eldar player in you is it doesn't look like you have to redeploy into your deployment. You can just put them. You can redeploy things with forward deploy into forward deploy. Yeah, if your opponent plays super conservatively, you just go, oh, hold on a second, I'm going to put them here, and you've got no line of sight to shoot them.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting.
Okay.
Okay. Then we've got perfectly adapted Tyranid model only. Once per turn, you can reroll 1 hit, wound, damage, advance, charge, or saving throw made for the bearer. This is boring.
Custodians used to have
Tyranids had it.
Relic or a warlord trait for it, and it did make like a shield captain extra hard.
He did have a 3-up invuln, I believe.
It was a 3-up invuln, though.
Yeah.
So I can't do this.
I'm not saying it's bad. It's just boring. I took this. It was the Leviathan warlord trait. I took this because it was quite important to definitely get off your charge and your psychic when you were playing the Flyrant in that list, and just not having to CP it. So like having that backup reroll without having to allocate CP to it was really nice. And then when you got into melee and you hadn't used either of the rerolls because you made your spells and you got your charge, you're like, cool, I've just got an extra reroll in here for free because why not?
Yeah. Why not?
And at that point, you didn't have to spend CP. But like, it's so boring.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather see things that were less
Well, you've
valuable.
only got 4 things. Like the fact that that's one of them.
Yeah. Like, don't give us boring shit. Give us fun jank that doesn't necessarily have to be good. I'd be complaining if they were bad as well. Give us well-written and fun rules, Games Workshop, please. Is that too much to ask?
Yes.
I don't think it is. Okay, the chat is saying that you can pick 3. That's good to know. And Jack says, Tyranids gets 7 strats, time to ban them preemptively. That is absolutely the messaging that we've been getting in the group chat today, Jack. Synaptic Linchpin, number 3. You have extended your synapse range from 6 to 9 inches. It's another good but boring rule.
Do you think one that will be picked?
Yeah, probably. Because it's synapse is keyed off models, it's not keyed off units, which means that you can't. Well, you can extend it with the Neuro Gaunts, which you won't because they're dog shit. But it just lets you be a little more spread out. I think it'll probably end up being quite important because of the strats. If it was just for Battle Shock, you'd probably be like, oh, well, this unit is Battle Shocked. But
yeah.
Okay. And then best to last, Adaptive Biology, Feel No Pain 5+. At the start of any turn, if the bearer has fewer than its starting number of wounds remaining, it then gets a 4-up Feel No Pain instead.
Ooh, 4-up Feel No Pain.
This is a callback to the 8th edition rule, I believe. It's basically a case of kill me in one turn, because if you don't, you're going to regret it, because my biology is going to adapt to your weapons. Yeah,
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, this is the best one.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is the most fun and flavorful one. The other ones are fine, but I think they're all pretty good. I'm underwhelmed by 3 of them, but no, I'm underwhelmed by 2 of them. This one is broken because you can redeploy into the middle of the board.
I just love a redeploy, so I'm all about that redeploy.
You would, you filthy elf.
And Custodes.
Yeah. So we are on to the data sheets. We have 2 of these winged hive tyrants. And only one of them has an illegal loadout from the models you were showing me just before we went live. So that's really cool, really fun. So he's significantly slower than he was. He's gone down from a 16-inch move to a 12-inch move. He's T9, which is kind of roughly what T7 was before. He's got a 2-up save. He's gone up to 2-up. That's quite nice. Previously had a 3-up. Only 10 wounds. Leadership 7. Leadership in NIDS is bad, but you're going to be taking it on 3d6, so it kind of evens out. OC3 is fine. I don't love it. It feels like most of the monsters we're seeing have more. And then it's got the various rules you'd expect to see. It explodes for D3 mortal wounds, deep strike, shadow in the warp, synapse. All of those are good. And then, excitingly, it has Will of the Hive Mind. Once per turn, pick a Tyranid unit within 12 inches, target with a strat for 0 CP, like the Gilliman ability, even if that unit has already been targeted with the stratagem this phase. It's really fucking good.
Yeah. Just strat combos are going to be really nice.
Yeah. So he's not a leader. He can't go into any squads. So he's probably going to get melted pretty quickly. But like, do you still think you take him because the Will of the Hive Mind there?
I guess it depends on how important and firstly what he costs. But let's say he's going to be 100 and something. I don't know. Say, what is the Flyrant currently?
Oh, like 240 or something daft. But he started off a lot more reasonable. He just had to go up because he was
okay.
broken.
Let's say he's like 180, right?
Sure.
So if he was 180, based on that, like data sheet alone, doesn't seem to offer a huge amount. So then what value are you getting out of really buffing those big killer units that you've got?
Sure.
With all that CP. I don't know. It's not. All I know is that whenever I play against Tyranids, they always have a Flyrant. This guy doesn't seem to be as big and scary as I've ever known him before.
I very unfairly tried to coax you into a snafu because this footrent has the same rule. So
Hooray!
you won't see the fly rent at all, I don't think.
Okay.
But
Especially
you
the
will see
slide's
this.
not that great either.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very unfair of me, but I won't apologise for it.
You
But
bastard.
you bamboozled me. You got round my my shenanigans. The rest of the stuff he's got in there, paroxysm, which used to be fight last, is now you are -1 attacks in the squad. It's
Okay, that's
fine.
nice.
Jack says it's good to blunt an opponent's melee Death Star. Cool. I feel like maybe there's better ways to deal with it, which is
Screens of gaunts.
yeah. Maybe that does end up being a tech piece, but I think for the cost, like if it was on like an 80-point support character that you could do that with, I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But because it feels like it's going to be too much cost for that. It depends how good Death Stars are, I guess, but that is a fair shout. And then we do see some weapons here, so you can take melee weapons or you can take a ranged weapon. You can't have both, so I guess you'd have the Tyrant
You
Talons if
mean
you
you
had your
can't
gun.
have double devourer?
No,
Or
that's not a legal, which is a shame because it does look cool. It does look cool.
Yeah, it was a cool model as well. I was looking forward to painting
Yeah,
it. It's a shame.
shame about that.
Yeah.
So both of the ranged weapons that tyrants can take, because we're kind of doing both data sheets here.
Yeah.
They both have blast, which is cool. Both have 36-inch range. The heavy venom cannon is D3 shots down from 3, strength 9, AP2 flat 3 damage. So that's the same strength, but strength is kind of it doesn't mean the same. And damage down to 3 from 4, and it was AP3 as well. So that's definitely it's taken a big hit. The Venom Cannon is paying for the sins of 9th edition.
Okay.
And then the Stranglethorn Cannon is also nerfed, but not in a way that I particularly care about. D6 plus 1 shots, strength 7 AP 1 2 damage. Used to be quite a bit better than this, but in terms of like how I expect things to feel going from 9th to 10th, it feels alright, I think. I kind of like that one more, just because you get more shots to kill Marines, and
Yeah, that's it. It's a solid profile.
you're going to want to kill Marines, so that's always fun. Melee, it's got a bone sword and lash whip. There's no Reaper of Obliterax in this edition. You'll be pleased to hear.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So now you're just making 6 attacks at strength 9, AP2, flat 3 damage, and you're rerolling your wounds because you're twin linked. It's not a bad profile. You've got the Scything Talons, if you take those as extra attacks, and they're just 4 attacks at 722, and you've got the Tyrant Talons as well, which is 722. So basically, if you take the Scything Talons instead of the Bone Sword and Lash Whip, you've got 9 attacks, 722. You should probably take the sword each time, which is a good job you haven't got one that's modelled with the Scything Talons, because that would kind of suck for you as someone who's looking forwards to getting into NIDS.
You mean
in a
this
big way.
guy here with the Scything Talon?
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame, Chris.
So
that's a real shame.
I need one with a sword.
Have you got a third one as well?
No, I don't own.
I was waiting for you to pull a third one out.
You mean no? I actually don't own. No, I have 2 floats, and those are the only 2.
Yeah. Some more sloppy rules writing. Existence points out that the rule doesn't have to a minimum of 1 on the -1 attacks, but he guesses that'll get FAQ'd with the rest of such rules. Yeah, because there are a lot of rules.
There's so many rules where they've not this time put to a minimum of 1.
Which is weird because it's the same rule.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
It's got to be intentional, right? But we just don't know what
yeah. Guys, I'm playing with intent here. So yeah, we've seen those. I'm super underwhelmed by the Flyrant. I'm pretty whelmed.
Not happy
with
but
the
I don't care. I
Walkrant.
don't own one really, so we're fine.
Just so, do you want to pull out your Swarmlord as well? Have you got that to hand?
Oh, I'll pull out my Swarmlord for you, buddy. Here we go. Ooh.
There we go. So, as you may be able to see, the guy that he got the Swarmlord from used the flying tail, which means that it's leaping through the air. And I never thought of doing that with mine, which upsets me a little bit because it looks baller as fuck. So that's, potentially you might have to rip some wings off and have 3 leaping Warprints. That might be something to go with.
Yeah.
But very nice because the Warprint looking pretty good. The rules here that we see, instead of having Paroxysm, I forgot the name of it there, we've got Onslaught. Onslaught used to give advance and charge. That was very nice. What it now gives is ranged weapons within 6 inches have assault, so they can advance and shoot. That's just not it.
Is there a unit? Maybe? I don't know.
I mean, there's plenty of units that you'd be happy to do this with, but it's like it's not something that you're like, oh, I'm
It doesn't
excited about
impact
having
the
this.
game as much
Yeah.
as Advance and Charge can.
What I was talking to Chris about before the game is they've changed the verbiage on the actions for the scoring of secondaries. Previously, it was if a unit hasn't fallen back or advanced, it can do an action. So that's, fairly clear. Now it's, I believe the wording is an eligible unit to shoot, and that doesn't mean that it has to have a gun. It just means that it hasn't advanced or fallen back. Unfortunately, there's a loophole with that. If you have an assault weapon and you advance, you are eligible to shoot. So as written currently, he gives a 6-inch aura of advance and do actions. That's not bad. It's definitely not what was intended, but it's not bad.
What actions are there to do? We don't.
Oh, it's the secondary scoring stuff, basically. Yeah. But it doesn't really matter. We don't need to go into that because it's definitely going to get fixed because it's dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
But incredibly fun. So yeah, there we go. And we can see that he's got the same weapons there. He can take 2 melee weapons, so you could have 6 attacks with the bone sword and then 4 with the scything talons as extra attacks. Or you could probably just take a gun and a sword. That feels, to me, like the best option there. Lovely stuff. Any thoughts on this guy? He's a little bit tougher. He's T10 instead
I was
of.
going to say, yeah. He moves. He's only moving 4 inches less.
Yeah. So he used to move, I think, 10. I want to say, and the Flyrant moved 16, which became 17 with the adrenal glands. Definitely a comparative glow up.
And historically, these guys are less than the Flyrants.
True. We'll have to see if that.
Are they? Are they historically less cheaper?
Yeah. No, they were in 9th edition even before the points nerf, I believe. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've always been such a huge advocate of Fly, but based off the current rules, it doesn't seem to be as impactful.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Swooping Hawks, for example, because they'll be moving through walls. I'm not so much looking forward to jet bikes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you can see here that they've called it out. You can't have the double gun loadout, which is a shame because it's fun. It's bad, but it's fun. So I'm in favor of it just for banter reasons. And they can join Tyrant Guard, which is
makes sense.
Yeah, fairly relevant. Swarmlord, seen him already. He gives you a CP if he's alive. He once per game vects your opponent, so he can give them, one of their strats costs 1 CP more from the next time they use it. Yeah. And he has a 9-inch inbuilt synapse range anyway. For a pin fun, he's just got an extra couple of attacks over the normal Walkrant. He can also join the Tyrant Guard. Just a really nice data sheet.
I was going to say, I like all the things I'm hearing here.
Yeah, you lose a gun, but you gain another gun, which is comparable, I guess. It auto hits. It has the psychic keyword, which is only a nerf, honestly. At this point, I don't think we've seen any benefits to it.
And also, D6 plus 3 shots at 2 damage, auto hitting for potentially Overwatch is quite nice.
Yes, that is a great spot. There's an absolutely great spot. And I think there's another one in here that will be worth calling out for that as well. But honestly, I could see you taking both of them, depending on points. Walkrant and a Swarmlord.
Yeah,
I like
all about Swarmlord here.
Yeah, because the missions that we're seeing are very brawl in the middle at the moment, it feels like. Yeah. So why not just run 2 Death Stars, honestly? Yeah. Both of them are giving you CP generation. One gives you a CP each command phase. One gives you a strat for free each turn and doubling up a strat. So you could heroic intervention with both of them if you wanted to, which would be quite funny. So yeah, I think this might be the points depending. This could definitely be the way that I could see Nids going.
I know what I'm painting up next.
Well, that's good because he's a baller model.
Oh, yeah.
Broodlord. Pretty sure we saw him already. He gives devastating wounds to Gene Stealers when he joins them.
Yeah.
And Gene Stealers get reroll wounds if they're attacking anything on an object.
Oh, and that's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah. This is the combo that's going to ruin the game, Chris. Devastating wounds and rerolls to wound.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're going to be they're not an egregious case. There's a lot worse. This is going to be fairly fine. They're just going to pump out a lot of shots. Gelmara says he's not Synapse, which is hilarious because as long as I've known him, he has been. He's, the forward node controlling the Gene Stealers. But no, don't worry about it. He's definitely not Synapse.
Not this time.
Nothing wrong there.
He's only got 5 attacks.
Yeah, he had. I think he had 5 in the current edition, either 5 or 6. He does have reroll wounds, which he's had, so he's fine. I think as long as he's not too much.
I was going to say this is quite nice to be ahead of like a gene stealing unit, whatever. But
because he gives them devastating wounds.
exactly.
So like some of the strength isn't over here. Some of it's in here where they're going to be putting them into the unit, which is
Pre-game move 8 is nice with your gene stealers. It's just going to come down to points, you know. If he's far too expensive, you're like,
right now he's like 110.
Oh, don't know. I don't want to be paying that.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and that's when he casts a single spell.
Yeah.
Like I've used him to get forward deploy warp rituals early on, and then like do some shenanigans.
Yeah.
I don't think I particularly want to pay that much for him if he doesn't have that, level of
80
scoring.
points. In my head, I'm thinking 80, maybe.
Yeah, and it's we don't know what everything's going to cost yet, so it's hard to set. But going by 9th edition points, 80 feels about right to me.
Yeah.
He does also let you turn one unit that he's fighting, give them -1 to hit. Nice little buff. It's probably good because Gene Stealers are not the most tanky. They did get a 2nd wound, which is nice. So maybe that'll make a difference. But
Primarified.
yeah, absolutely. Primaris Gaunts. Then we've got the Winged Tyrant Prime, Tyranid Prime, even.
You spoke about him, didn't you?
Yeah,
I'm
even less impressed by him now that we've seen the other data sheets.
What's he bringing? I don't get what he's bringing. Unless he's dirt cheap.
Yeah, I was kind of feeling like he was going to be. This is the standard for what 612 for a hero size, like infantry size character that isn't like a big hero. I was like, oh, okay, so this is like a lieutenant level, and then I'm super underwhelmed. It's very anti-synergistic
as well. Like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Either they're releasing Shrikes, which is Winged Warriors, when the book comes out, and they just haven't put it on here yet because obviously the data sheet's not there, or they've dropped the ball. Like, give me fucking Shrikes, Games Workshop. Just give me Shrikes. They're incredibly cool, and I regret not buying any when you had them in Forge World, even if I couldn't use them.
Oh, were they a Forge World thing, were they?
Yeah, it was just a wing conversion pack, basically. So Shrikes could only ever have 1 melee weapon, and then the wings as well. But
okay, cool.
Yeah, cool models anyway. And here we can see Gargoyles, Tyranid Warriors with melee and ranged bioweapons, which is something that I think is quite interesting. We'll get to those when we get down. Tervigon, beefy. She is beefy. Lord She Thick.
Give you 3 Termagons.
She used to spawn a squad. She no longer does. Now she does resurrect D3 plus 3 Termagants into a squad. And you can't do it with more than 1 Tervagons into the same squad, but you could Endless Swarm strat.
I was going to say, because you
yeah.
3 plus 6.
And there's no the verbiage on it. There's no wording saying that you have to put them specifically like near the models. So you could, in theory, between this and the strat, res 12 models from a squad, and you could snake, and you could just cover multiple objectives. I think. Yeah, there's going to be some jank with this. It does rely on your opponent killing, specifically 12 out of a squad of 20, but it's a fun thematic model. And as we can see, T11 2-up save, 16 wounds, OC5, just pretty solid, pretty beefy. Got a 6-inch aura to buff Termagants. They'll auto wound on.
You're leaning into the Gaunt spam, I guess. Taking this on you.
Which is probably the best buff that you can give them, honestly, because their weapons, they ain't great.
Okay.
Yeah, her weapons are pretty good. Stinger Salvo, just some low quality shots, as it always has been. And then you can either make 4 attacks at strength 12, AP3, D6 plus 1, but only hitting on 4s, or you can have the sweep and strike of the Scything Talons.
Ooh.
I think both kind of underwhelm me the same amount, but I'm sure someone will sit down and work out what the most efficient choice is. Yeah. Tervigon, again, not a leader, can't join any squads. Speaking of leaders, though, Old One Eye. Old One Eye. He's a baller. He has either a sweep or a strike. So 6 attacks at strength 14, AP3 D6 plus 1. So that's just going to wound pretty much everything in the game on 3s. I think even the Titan stuff we saw might have been strength toughness 13. Or, maybe he's wounding Titans on 4s, whatever. It doesn't matter. Or he's got 12 attacks, which are 6/1/1. It's just a solid sweep to have.
Yeah.
He has a Feel No Pain 5+ leader, so he can join Carnifex. And he also gives reroll hit rolls for the squad that he's leading.
That's
And then
shooting and combat's nice.
It is. That is very important, because I'm going to break the rules a little bit, and we are going to skip forwards.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what? I'm already regretting doing this. Because I've realised I don't know where Carnifexes are in here. So, yeah.
The jingle.
Oh, hey! It wasn't even difficult. Carnifexes.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Carnifexes comes a squad of 1 to 2.
Okay.
Which feels a bit weird. Could have been 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Still T9. That's fine. It's lower than a Dreadnought. I had my rant about that on the Monday stream. 8 wounds. That's fine. They don't have damage -1. They do have a 2-up save, so they feel a lot squishier than they were.
Yeah.
And not only do they feel squishier than they were, look down this row here. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 4+.
That's gross.
For everything.
Oh.
Now, I would be okay with them shooting in 4s, but hitting on 4s in melee, that's so sad.
How are they missing? They're massive. They've got massive, great weapons.
I know. It's absolutely disgraceful. It's really disappointing, honestly. I think one squad with Old One Eye could be like a staple, depending on points, because they're going to be hitting on 4s, but re-rolling everything.
Yeah, so you get 75%
but it doesn't matter, because you can't ever run more than 2 of these, because unless you're paying something absurdly cheap, you're just not getting value for it. They're going to die to the increased number of anti-tank weapons people are going to be bringing, because they don't have a defense against those, really. There's no invuln. They're going to be hitting on unbelievably sad numbers. I don't know. As someone who has 7 Carnifexes, that brings me sadness.
Yeah.
But we'll it's fine. We'll go back up to my screen definitely not freezing. And where were we at?
I'm getting closer and closer to my camera. Just,
make sure you can read. Perfect. Yeah. Old One Eye. I think he's great. I think what they've done to Carnifexes to make him join the unit is pretty sad, but I think himself, he's got a 5-up Feel No Pain. He heals some wounds. He rerolls hits, but only when he's leading a squad. So if you kill the other 2 boys, he's suddenly less effective, which is again something that they've put on sheets across the board, which I really dislike. I like that your characters buff things, but I'd prefer it that they didn't get worse when their friends died.
Yeah,
feels a bit bad.
Yeah.
Epic hero. You can only run one of them, obviously. He is,
of course.
And we've got to the end of the characters there. That's weird, because there's some more characters. There's a Neurothrope and there's a Tyranid Prime, but we haven't seen those.
Okay.
Turns out, in the bin, they no longer exist as a standalone Danish sheet. But they've been rolled into the squads that they lead. So it's almost like having a leader in the squad at all times, except that they don't cost you extra points and they also don't buff you in any way, shape, or form. So if we look at,
do they get like extra wounds or anything?
No,
they're literally just something that's going to look different.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, the Neurothrope does have something on the datasheet that says when the Neurothrope is alive, this rule takes effect. But basically, it just means it's a datasheet rule. But if you kill the sergeant first, you're sad. But yeah, oh well, is what it is. Warriors. You've got.
Right, warriors. So I assume every Tyranid player out there has like 30 warriors. So.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is definitely not a box that is. The light is so bad. So that they are just piled on top of each other because I had to move them from my windowsill where I was spraying some models. They are just stacked 2 layers deep.
So this would be interesting because if these are highly spammable, then immediately Tyranid players are going to be loving this.
Sure. They are worse than they were.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to be bad, because they were kind of cracked out of their mind with the combination of Leviathan, yada yada yada. We know what they're doing. They do have synapse on there, which is good, because you're going to want things to spread your synapse. And if your infantry are worth taking and they give synapse, that's very nice.
Okay.
So stat line exactly the same. Leadership is whatever. OC2 is quite nice. They're the big beefy. You probably couldn't give them 3 without being a problem, but if they were 1, they'd feel anemic.
Yep.
So these are the ranged Tyranids, and I've just realised they used a backwards 3 for their ease. I don't understand why they've done that. All right. Games Workshop typesetting has been taken over by a stereotypical quirky 12-year-old girl, but it's fine. You know what? It'll grow on me, like biomass. Yay. So the ranged weapons, they get to shoot and charge in a turn they fell back. That's quite a nice buff to have.
Yes.
Not something that they had previously. You could
Harlequin-esque.
Yeah. And like Harlequins, they don't have a very good invuln. So
Wow.
Unlike Harlequins, they have a faction that is getting rules, apparently. I think Harlequins might be rolled into Eldar at the moment. But
they are, yeah.
We'll see. So melee. This is the big thing, basically. They went from having 4 attacks at strength 8, AP 3, 2 damage, to having 5 attacks at strength 5, AP 1, 1 damage. It's not great.
Okay.
But if you're taking them for the guns...
These are the shooty ones, right? So...
These are the shooty ones. It's fine. Honestly, I don't hate it. And then you've got a variety of guns here that are worse than they were. Barbed Strangler is pretty similar to what it was. Death Spitter has lost a pip of AP, but is still pretty okay. Devourer, I think Devourer is actually exactly the same. Spine Fist, who cares? They've always been bad and still will be on this model here. The Venom Cannon is paying for its sins still. In fact, the Venom Cannon got better than it was, because it used to be strength 8, AP2, 2 damage, and D3 shots. So interestingly, the heavy Venom Cannon got nerfed, but the normal Venom Cannon got buffed. It's still ballistic skill 4, but yeah, outside of that, interesting. Okay, so yeah, it's all going to come down to points.
Can you just choose which ones you want, or do you need a certain number?
So it's going to be a case of every 3 models you can have a Barbed Strangler, every 3 models you can have a Venom Cannon, and then everyone else can have the other guns there, basically. So you initially... Oh! Squad size, down from 9 to 6. That's different. That is very different. I'm used to running bricks of 9, so they really don't want you to be running the unkillable bricks of warriors again, which I think is...
Are they battle line?
They are not.
So you can only take 18.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, wow, I've got...
But you could take 18 shooting and 18 combat, so different data.
There we go. You've made my evening, because I was going to say I've got about 18 too many at this point. But no, suddenly I can run them all again. This is great. So yeah, I think that's interesting. It's a good buff on the data sheet. The weapons are significantly worse, but we want to see that intent. Yeah, I don't mind it. Oh, I kind of do, actually, because these are the ranged ones.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a huge amount of shots.
Yeah.
I mean, you take, I don't know, let's say everyone takes a Death Spitter. And you got 6, that's 18 shots. There's only 9 hits. 6 wounds on a Marine at -1.
You'd take 2 Venom Cannons and then 4 Death Spitters, probably, depending on points. So you're getting 2 Venom Cannon hits and then less Death Spitter hits. Yeah, I don't love it. This is where having the sustained hits from the flying Tyranid Prime, I keep calling it the wrong thing, would be good, because it's effectively +1 a hit. But
I don't think this is going to have the output that you...
No, especially because the squads are smaller than they were.
Yeah.
That does feel...
And only OC2? Like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not incredible, is it?
Yeah, and there's not really any way to defensively buff them, or not much anyway. So.
And they're only on a 4-up, 3-up in cover.
Yeah.
I'm not being great about those, must admit.
No, if they're cheap though, like if we go back to a world where they're like 20 points or something, and you're not running them because they're transhuman and they have all the saves, you're just running them because they're the mid-sized bugs. Yeah, if we go back to 15, 20 points or whatever is reasonable, a 10th, maybe they're worth taking. So then we've got the melee bioweapons with
I've
the
always, ever
quirkies.
since I got first into it as a kid,
Yeah,
the only Tyranid models I actually really liked were the Tyranid warriors with melee weapons.
they are
I just
very
thought they
cool.
look cool.
They are
So
very cool. And you'll be pleased to hear that I think they're actually worth taking now.
rerolling
So
wounds, I like that already.
exactly, they get an extra attack, they get an extra pip of AP, and they reroll the wounds.
And
This is a
hitting
good
threes.
place to be in.
Ooh.
The shooting ones hit on threes
Oh, okay.
in melee as well. So, but that's a worthwhile buff. Extra attack, extra AP, rerolling wounds. It's quite nice. It's kind of depend what the meta is, whether they're going to be worthwhile taking in terms of the output. But
Yep.
they do have a buff. At the start of the fight phase, you pick either reroll ones to hit or reroll saving throws of 1.
Oh, that's
That's
interesting. A
yeah.
reroll saving throw for.
It's not against shooting. It's only into melee.
Yeah, it's only a fight, but still,
So
you get charged or whatever, and it's
yeah.
some things.
So it's that you get a defensive buff, you get an offensive buff, which is quite cool. I like that. Again, it'd be nice if you could put something to lead them other than just the flying prime. Maybe it's worth here. You can use that to extend the charges, because obviously the flight range you can move a bit further. They look pretty okay.
So it feels to me like potentially the shooting guys, potentially you take in the threes, the small groups, just to plink some fires, get value out of the venom cannon or whatever. These guys, you'd want the 6-mans to go and try and punch something hard with the
Yeah,
rerolls.
I absolutely agree. Maybe a 5 or a 6 if you're going to put a prime in there just to play around Blast, because Blast looks pretty strong in this edition.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. So yeah, it's all points dependent. But if they're not too expensive, I feel pretty good about them. I'd love to see them. I'd love to see like a mid-sized bug swarm, where they're
Yeah.
not super dangerous, but if they reach you, they do the orc thing and they blend you.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be quite cool. Termagants, seen them already. If you end a move near them, they'll move away. They have some guns. As I said on Monday, they almost got it right. If Fleshbore had a different rule apart from assault, I think they could have been really interesting, and you could have had 3 weapons that were worth thinking about. But they're cool, nice new models. You don't take them to kill stuff. Let's be real. You take them because they're cheap. That's the play there. And interestingly, all the gaunts are down from 10 to 30 to 10 to 20. So you've got you've got a less
bit more
model.
careful with how you position them if you want to bring them back.
Yeah, absolutely. Hormagaunts. Hormagaunts. Same stat line as they currently have. Still got a 10-inch move. They are eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. That might seem like a good rule, but
I
all
guess
it
you
really
don't
does.
care about that.
You kind of do, but
I guess
all
you
it
can-
really does is it reminds you that there is no other source of advance and charge in this book.
Yes.
And then you get sad.
Yeah.
Because Nids have
so-
typically been advancing and charging for as long as I remember them anyway. But if they're cheap, they're going to be great, just as they are at the moment. They're a fantastic little tech piece.
I guess 20 of them, 60 attacks.
Or even just running 10 of them, because you're not planning on killing anything with them. When I was writing Nid lists, I was typically running 10 of these. I started off with Gargoyles, then I found these guys more useful. You just advance them at the board, use them to move block, use them to get into objectives. All the gaunts here have OC2, which is really nice to have.
Yeah.
There's not much to say. Little boys. We don't really see much support for the little guys in this one, but I'm interested to see the rules that come with the little guy detachment, because I'm assuming that there is going to be one of those. Gargoyles. They're pretty neat. They've had a glow up. I'll read some rules out for you.
Please
Deep Strike. They lost Deep Strike in 9th edition, so that's nice. Their flesh borers have assault, so they can advance and shoot. They have OC2 still. They move 12 inches. They fly. And in your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, if it's not within engagement range, it can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. It can't charge at that point, but you just get an inbuilt fire and fade.
And we all love that.
We all do love that.
So infantry and fly is nice because it means they can pop out through the wall, shoot something, and then pop back.
Yeah.
But
more likely, I think you'll use them for positional play.
Yeah.
So you'll maybe
fight like
move 12, advance D6, shoot, move forwards, and go, cool, I've really hemmed you in now.
Yeah, I think a lot of the with the way with flights, we could now like kind of move block stuff. and get right in there. Any sort of vehicle lists, if we do see this kind of like potentially transporty, vehicle-y type thing, getting
Yeah,
across the move blocking would be really nice.
absolutely. Cool. Toxicrene, the model with 1,000,000 tentacles. You've got one of those, haven't you?
I do have one. Yeah.
Excellent. I'd like everyone in the stream to take a look at it because this is the only time you're going to see it. You
Lies.
might you
I'm
might
playing
see it
it.
painted up.
I'm
You
playing
you
it.
will not be playing it because it can't move between terrain because it's about 12 inches wide. Genuinely ridiculous.
That
Um,
is
and
quite.
for that reason, yeah, for that reason, I don't think there's much to say. It does what it's always done. It's anti-infantry here, so it's wounding infantry on twos, which is what it was doing before. It's just, it blends infantry with low AP. It prevents you from falling back. It does mortal wounds if you're nearby. It's a ridiculously large model that's only going to look good on
So
a
I
shelf.
could use it to move block
Yourself.
half of my board.
Yeah, you can move through your own models now, but you can't end inside your own model, so that might cause you some issues.
We'll see.
But
Okay.
we've come onto a cool data sheet again, so
Okay.
we're onto something worth talking about. Tyrant Guard, T8, T8. These motherfuckers are chunky.
What?
Th-
They're T8.
They are T8. They were T6 before,
Oh,
so
okay.
this kind of tracks because
Right.
if you're talking about T9 as roughly T7,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just below where a Rhino is. They are. Look at them. He's a big beastie. But that's good because people have been concerned about putting their tyrants in a squad,
Mm.
and whether once you've killed the tyrant guard, the rest of the wounding more easily, killing off the tyrants, whether that's going to be an easy way to deal with them. Turns out not really, because they've got a pretty decent toughness, not quite as high as a Hive Tyrant. But they also have, when a character model is leading this unit, that character has the Feel No Pain 5+ ability. So, precision, no. Get
Yeah.
fucked.
Nice against precision.
Yeah. That's really nice because there's been a lot of people concerned about the mixed toughness squads and, sniping characters out of
Yeah.
the Tyrant Guard. Melee-wise, they look about as underwhelming as they always have. 3 attacks with either the Bone Cleaver, which is, a 5-1-2 profile hitting on 3s, Clutching Claws, which is 8-2-2, but it's only weapon skill 4, and then Scything Talons, which is really nothing to write home about. As always, they're there just to kind of bodyguard, and any little chip damage they do on top of that is good. You can put a Neurotyrant in them, which gives them +1 to hit, and potentially +1 to wound if you manage to battle shock something. Maybe that's good. I don't think the profile's really good enough for that.
Doesn't seem like
But if you want to take the Neurotyrant because it provides the battle shock, the shadow in the warp extra -1. If you want to take it for other reasons, maybe you try and do something there. Again, all depends on points. Because if they're super cheap, like fuck it, I'm running, Footrant, Swarmlord, Neurotyrant, 3 big squads of Tyrant Guard, and we're just going to town. But, if they're still 40 points, you probably can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can see here, they can all just change their rules there. Change the weapons. Neurotyrant, we've seen it before. Just going back to the Flamer, as you were saying with the Swarmlord, having Strength 5, AP 1-2 damage Flamer, it's just good. This one ignores cover, but it has a slightly more random amount of shots.
Yeah.
It's good.
Nice. Yeah.
Synaptic Relay, you still get the really cool models that you can put next to stuff, and that's probably more important now, actually thinking about it, because we've seen the strats that you have to be in Synapse range. So obviously one of his rules here is Synaptic Relays, command phase, pick 2 units within 12, give them basically Synapse for a turn.
So you could bounce it then further on.
Yeah, so you can just basically go, these 2 squads are going to get the Synaptic buffs in the command phase, not in the command phase, in the fight phase. I just want to make sure that they have the Synapse buff going into that, so I can target both of them. So, it all depends on points. It is a cool model.
Very cool one.
Yeah. Lictor.
Liggy.
Licky. Does pretty much what it does before. It infiltrates. It's a lone operative. It has stealth. These are all pretty analogous to what it has at the moment. Feeder tendrils. If you destroy a character, you get 1 CP. It's not bad. To do that, they get precision. So 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 7, AP 2 damage. you can probably threaten some,
Yeah.
less
No,
tough.
that's awesome.
Keep in mind as well that it's probably also going to have sustained hits. I expect that you're going to be picking sustained hits as the army rule, that most models get. Pheromone Trail, what's quite fun is you can rapid ingress it for 0 CP.
Yeah, so you could drop it down, then it could move off and do its thing.
If you find that your scoring is built around
Yeah.
getting into behind enemy lines,
Yeah,
a couple of these and just sort of like drip feeding them in and then moving, that could be really frustrating for your opponent to deal with. Then we have got the Death Leaper. It's the same thing. He's got an extra wound. He's got a slightly better invuln save. He loses the rapid ingress strat, which is interesting.
So is he a special lictor?
He is. He's a character lictor.
Okay.
Let's just have a look here. So, how can this rapid ingress? Because it doesn't. Oh, I guess it's got to come on from the board edge. That's less exciting. So you could rapid ingress this. It would still have to spend a CP because it doesn't have that rule there. But instead, it has Battle Shock shenanigans, worsen the leadership by 1, and make them take Battle Shock if they're below starting strength instead of half strength. Maybe I'm just out on Battle Shock. I'm not blown away by that.
Yeah.
But
I think I like the old infiltrate and fights first thing.
yeah. Sorry, I should have said that. The fights first is obviously
Yeah, well, I think those sorts of things could be interesting into some matchups.
It's very much going to be there to eat your opponent's striking scorpions. I think is the.
How dare you?
Hey, I'm playing the striking scorpions as well.
Yes.
Maliceptor. The
Now these
Maliceptor.
were incredible.
Oh man, they were so good.
Are they still? This should be interesting.
They're pretty okay. So they've got a pretty good psychic gun. Only 18-inch range again. D6 plus 3 shots. You have to roll to hit on 3s. Strength 10, AP 2, flat 3 damage.
That's quite tasty.
That's not bad. That's not bad. For an army that doesn't have a lot of shooting, that's pretty solid. And then it's got a decent melee. It's pretty comparable to what it had before. 3 attacks with a strike, 6 with a sweep. Does the job. It won't kill much, but it's there that if you touch it, you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Is also still quite tanky. T11, 14 wounds, 4 up
I just
in.
got a 3-up because a lot of the others had 2-ups. The monsters.
Saves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always had a 3-up save compared to the other ones because it's got big exposed brains in its back. So
I mean that's understandable.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. And it does have an aura. It used to have an aura ability that you could cast that would give you -1 of strength weapons when you shot near it. Now it has -1 to hit and conditionally -1 to wound within 6 inches of it. So you have to be near the models, the enemy models. So it's not like an anti-shooting buff anymore. It's an anti-melee buff, which, less good.
Yeah, I'm not as sold on this.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the points because if you can take one without hurting the pocket, I think you're going to be very happy about having it. Just everything it has is good. It brings synapse, which is good for your army. It brings a decent shooting attack. It brings OC and like enough melee that a small squad doesn't want to touch it. It brings an anti-melee buff. All of those things you're not like super bothered about necessarily, but when you've got all of them, you're just like, oh, cool, this is good into a wide range of things. Yeah, and that's a good profile for killing Terminators, which I'm expecting to see Terminators, so that's going to be quite nice. Although, of course, they'll just Armor of Contempt you and stand in cover and still have a 2-up save. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Lovely stuff. Pyrovores. Pyrovores. They are Flamer Boys. They were pretty nuts on release. They were 30 points. And then they had to go up to 40 points because they were too good. And it feels like they're paying for the sins a little bit here. They've got a Flamer that ignores cover and is twin linked, but it's significantly worse than it was. So it's only D6 plus 1 shots. It's only 12-inch range and it's strength 6, AP 1, 1 damage. So kind of splitting the difference between the 2 profiles it had last time, but being kind of worse than both of them in some respect.
So I guess that's 3 to 4, 4 to 5 shots each. So how big
average 4.5. I would assume it's 1 to 3. Yeah, 1 to 3.
Okay, so that's 15 auto hits. Wounding on 3s, rerolling. 12, 13 at -1. That's killing 3 pre-marines.
It's not bad, but it's also a 5-inch move unit.
Yeah.
It has the buff of if you shoot something, that unit no longer gets the benefit of cover until the end of the phase. It's
Okay.
cool, but you have to be within 12 inches of it.
Yeah.
I like to shoot things from range.
Yeah.
I
Well, that's
don't like to
it.
shoot things from 12 inches
You
away.
only want to be shooting them, yeah, if you're
Yeah.
on the way into combat, right?
So Davey's a big fan of running a drop pod with 2 squads of these in 9th edition. So
Yeah.
maybe something like that is worth doing. Um, Remains to be seen, I think. But yeah, I'm less impressed by these ones. But maybe they're super cheap, and at that point you're like, yeah, cool. I'll just put these in the middle of the board for Overwatch purposes.
Hmm.
Lovely
Yeah,
stuff.
flamers and Overwatch are things. Right?
I'm going to leave this one with you because I need to take a quick leak. But give me your thoughts on the Harrispecs because I'm going to be listening.
Oh, great, cool. Right, so the Harrispecs, that looks interesting. Absolutely no idea what this is. Never even seen one before. So it moves 8, T11, tasty. Save of 3 up, 14 wounds, each you pay an OC of 4. So what does this thing supposed to do? So shooting, 1 attack, d6 plus 1 damage, that's CAC. Precision though, so you could fail to kill a character with it. Melee weapons, it's got extra attacks, so that's 18 attacks. Okay. 14 attacks at 2 damage, strength 7 minus 1. And that is not nothing, I guess. Each time this model is selected to fight, after resolving its attacks, if one or more enemy units were destroyed by these attacks, each enemy unit within 6 inches of this model must take a battle shock test. So, is this the combat version of the Exocrine? Maybe. That feels like maybe I'm right. And I know they've always been crap, and they feel not great now, purely because this sort of model doesn't often do that well. But having said that, 14 attacks, hitting on 3s, 9, 10 hits, strength 7, 6 wounds, minus 1. You're not even killing a Space Marine squad with this lad. He's got 14 wounds. Could cause a bit of an issue. I mean, I'm not sold, Ed. I'm not sold.
I think I disagree
Okay.
because it's extra attacks. That's what tips it over for me.
Okay.
So you get 4 high quality attacks, and then just 14 like you're gonna fail some of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really depends on points. But he's really tough. He's T11, only a 3-up save, no invuln, but that kind of matters less. As you said, precision tongue as well could be quite funny. Going to be eating some Primaris lieutenants. Jack Tight says he thinks he's too slow. If he could, yeah, that's true. He can't jump in a Tyrannocyte anymore, so you can't deep strike him. But he doesn't really have any guns that you care about, so he could be advancing him up the field. I think we're going to see a lot of fighting over the mid board, so it might be enough beef to do that. But
I guess you could say, like, as we always keep saying, it's point dependent, but 3 of those just in your face seems potentially more scary than the card effects.
So I'm super biased because I only play NIDs for the big bugs, and I'm sad when I have to play anything else.
Yeah.
So I want it to be good, but
Okay.
yeah. And then the battle shock stuff as well, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Like if you can get in, kill something on an objective, battle shock the other squad on the objective, make them really annoying.
I guess it's got enough about it that it's not oh no, you're never going to get value out of this.
Yeah.
And hey, if it's early hundreds for the points, like 100 and something, 20.
I'd probably pay. I might even go up to 150 for this in 9th edition terms. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I hope it's good because it's such a cool model. It's it's a big bug that has a mouth that's vomiting tongues and grabby things. It's what's not to love?
It's a dream.
A face that only
it's
a brood mother could love.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Venomthropes. They are the same as they were. No, that's a lie. They used to have 4 wounds. Now they're down to 3. Interesting.
I own some of these, so
excellent.
Yeah.
So they have an aura of 6 inches, and for range attacks targeting things within 6 inches, your units get cover, and they also give stealth to those units, which is -1 to hit. Doesn't give stealth to big monsters, which is fair enough. That's how they were in 8th edition. Then they suddenly did in 9th edition. Then we're back to being sensible.
So they're a bit of a buffing thing, but didn't they used to have like a fight last ability?
They did. That is true.
And now they don't have anything.
No,
Really
honestly, that didn't come up that much. You took them purely for the -1 to hit.
Did against Harlequins.
They were probably really good against Harlequins as
Yeah,
well.
they were really good against Harlequins.
Because they have the same melee profile. They've lost the AP, but they've got 5
Yeah,
attacks
there's so
each.
many attacks. You're like, oh no.
But they auto wound on 2s against infantry.
Yep.
Which is very nice.
That's
So, yeah, that's what they do at the moment as well. So, yeah, I think this is again points, but this is going to be a staple. If you're putting anything in the open, you want to
give your monsters a cover saves.
Jack Sight says, I just remember having a war boss on bike deleted by these. Well, Jack, you shouldn't be running models that are purely, 4-up armor save or above, and then you'd be safe. Because yes, they will do that. 3 to 6, as always, you'll only run 3. Von Ryan's Leapers. I think they're good, but I'm not as hot on them as the rest of the internet seems to be. You got any thoughts on these guys before we skip past?
The 1 damage. Wish it was 2.
Yeah, that is 100% of my point on them. Like, everything else on that datasheet is so good. But they've only got 1 damage.
They've got so much good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's 1 though. If it's 2 damage, you're seeing a shit ton.
Even if it was like, and this is like a 9th edition stat line, but if it was Strength 5 AP 3 1 damage, I'd be like, maybe that does it.
Yeah,
but like AP 1 damage.
Like the Alaris grenade launcher, which was in 9th edition, -3 1 damage.
Yeah.
That's really helpful into some targets.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be pleased to hear that it's no longer that stat line. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's now AP 1.
I know. Fucking brute, my poor boy.
But that's okay. Yeah. Lovely models. They'll definitely see play, but it's going to be very meta defending.
I'd definitely be.
And even outside of Marines looking like they're going to be good, it's Marines. It's the start of an edition. They're in a box set. Everyone's going to be playing Marines. So I think they'll come into their own further on down the line. That's my expectation anyway.
And making most of that redeploy as well.
Yeah, and you can't have them led by a lictor, which makes sense, but I was hoping for that. Dog shit. You can't get me to talk about them. I refuse.
Sorry? I didn't even see what it was.
It was the fucking Neurogons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, get out of here. Zone troops. So, zone troops, they've gone down from 4 wounds back to 3, which is where they were. They keep the 4-up invuln. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. Only AOC 1. They've got a couple of rules. If an enemy model fails their battle shock test, they take D3 mortal wounds, and then one model in the unit regains D3 wounds. They give an aura of a 6-up invulnerable, which is much weaker than what they did in the last edition, but maybe that's going to be worthwhile. And then they've got ranged weapons. It's either both 24 inches, either D3 shots, blast, hitting on 3, strength 7, AP2, D3 damage, or it's lethal hits, single shot, hitting on 3, strength 12, AP3, D6 plus 1 damage. What do you think of these?
Lots of people have been saying these are good.
Yeah.
So why?
So you've done exactly the same thing as me, and you're still thinking about Psychic as that's what the squad does. Every single model in that squad gets to shoot that gun.
Yeah.
Oh no, that wasn't your sticky point.
So what? So there's.
So if you've got 3 of them, you're not rolling 1 shot. You're rolling 3 las cannons.
3 las cannons.
Yeah, okay. Or 3 shots at just a good marine mulching.
But they're not that tough. So they're quite easy to shoot down.
Well, they'll probably be -1 to hit. They're T5, so they're not super. There'll be a lot of anti-infantry stuff will be wounded on 5, so they've got a 4-up invuln. Yeah, they're not like invulnerable to harm, but they don't just fall over. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. I was expecting a bit more. So in terms of consistent output, I'm like thinking, I could only see these guys potentially firing maybe only 2 rounds.
Sure.
If you're trying to get that range, and I guess if we're saying a lot of the fighting's happening in the mid board, then
Yeah.
potentially comes down to line of sights and stuff. But I wouldn't want to be spending large amounts of points on these when, especially with the damage D6 plus one.
Yeah.
Like you take like that, right? So you get him out. You've got 3 guys shooting, 2 of them are hitting, strength 12 into, let's say, you're going to hit 1 or 2 times. I guess the -3 is all right. Yeah, or the D3 shots. Galmara says some of the only ranged anti-tank in the book, which is fair enough. I mean, lack
And
of
it's
rerolls on
versatile
it.
as well. Yeah, no, these are all fair points, and
What's
I'm not.
lethal hit again?
So 6 is auto wound, 6 is to hit, auto wound.
So you might occasionally get the odd thing there. Yeah, I mean it hasn't blown me away. I was expecting it to be like out of line of sight or something.
Sure.
Like that sort of thing. But I could definitely see how maybe 6 or 9 of those, if they're cheap enough.
I'm wondering, yeah. So a few people have said to me that they are unbelievably good, and I'm not that hot on them. But as soon as my brain caught up and I went, oh yeah, shit, they all do get a gun. I do really like these. It's the versatility, I think, for me, because 7.2 D3 is such a good gun to have. They kind of just do a little bit of everything.
6 shots, 4 hits, 3 wounds.
Yeah, but it's blast as well.
2 go through.
So if you're shooting into, let's say, a squad of, like, someone's brought a Death Star of 10 Terminators and a character, you're getting an average of, from 3 models, 12 hits. 12 shots, sorry. Because the blast is +1 for each.
Oh, right,
yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not as hot on them as some people are, but they seem pretty solid to me.
I think they are certainly a unit which I feel like if they weren't costed appropriately, you could spam and their efficiency goes right up.
That doesn't sound like 9th edition Tyranids at all. What are you talking about?
So yeah, that would be an interesting one. I think I don't know. We'll see. I think they're going to be very cost dependent.
Yeah, you can take them in squads of up to 6, and I am just waiting for Manny Chima to run 18 of them. It's not. I don't think that's very much his sort of spam. It'd be very slow moving, just a shooting unit. I don't think that would be something that excites him. Maybe I'll have to do it.
Yeah. I only own 3, unfortunately.
I've got like 8 or something, and Jack looks like he's selling 3. He's found them on the shelf, and he hears they're all right, so it's a good time to sell them. Gene Stealers, great, love them. Only strength 4, don't care. They're re-rolling wounds because you're going to put them into something on an objective because that's where the game is played.
How big can you make their squads?
5 to 10. 5 to 10 plus the Broodlord.
10 plus the Broodlord.
It's going to mulch some stuff, man. Yeah, it's really good. You can give them, if you face only knights, you can pick the lethal hits and you can spend a CP to give them critical hits on 5s. You can give them sustained hits as well or whatever. They're just going to do a lot.
I do like them. I've got a box full of them, so I'll definitely be.
They don't have infiltrate. They have a scout move, which is fine. It's still pretty decent.
They don't have. Did they used to have advance and charge?
Yeah. So 8th edition they had advance and charge. 9th edition they lost that, but they got infiltrate.
Okay.
This edition they've lost infiltrate and they've got a scout move.
How far are we starting away from our enemies usually?
24 inches or 18 on the corner.
Okay.
So yeah. It's like staging is going to be super easy with them if you have staging runes in 10th, and then I just love them. I think they're really good.
Yeah.
Ravenous, another in your face unit. They
used to be really good, didn't they?
They were, yeah. So they have Death from Below. You can put them if they're not in the engagement range of one or more enemy units at the end of your opponent's turn. You can put them into strategic reserves, and then they can deep strike back in. Really nice rule to have. Positional play, always very important. Yep. They've got, I'm assuming the Thoric bioweapon probably costs points, and because it's dog shit, you won't take it.
You won't pay for it, yeah.
Let's just assume that we're not doing that, because they gave them free guns this edition, so there's no way they do that again. Ravener Claws and Talons. They've kind of just rolled it all into one.
7 attacks.
7 attacks.
Rolling wounds.
Hitting on 3s, strength 5. Only AP 1 compared to the melee warriors, which are AP 2. That's 1 damage again. We're seeing a lot of mid-quality output from the melee of these mid-sized bugs, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But they are twin-linked. They're re-rolling wounds, as you so correctly spotted there.
Very exciting. Love a
Yeah,
reroll.
love a re-roll. I it's the same thing as the fucking Von Ryans, man. It's AP one damage.
Yeah,
Like,
AP1 feels bad, doesn't it?
give me a little bit of juice, just a little bit,
Just
because I can't.
something. Like, give me
Yeah,
the reroll wounds, man. That's the
yeah.
juice.
But you know who else has got that? Melee warriors.
Yeah,
They
and
lose.
it feels like they're very much going to be competing.
Yeah, they lose one attack, but they gain a pip of AP, so they're comparable there. Obviously, they're significantly slower, and there's no advance and charge now, so that might actually make a big difference.
Well, that used to be a big thing, right? Wasn't it? That they went really
Yeah,
far.
yeah. Kraken, you'd move them 10 plus an 8-inch advance, and then you'd, do a 2d6 charge.
Feels like they're competing for pretty much the same spot.
It
And I'm sure
does.
whoever is going to do the maths will work out which one, in most cases, is more efficient and just take that.
It's going to come down to points, and it's going to be warriors, I think, because I just can't see them pointing Ravenous.
OC as well, only OC1.
Yeah. I think there's a real use for them as like a skirmishing unit.
Yeah, I was just saying, like a little unit which could just pick up a flank, fuck off, score mission points later on, that sort of thing. I could see that.
I think if the devastating wounds issues with Eldar goes away, so that you can't just like sit behind terrain and they pick up your whole army with mortal wounds.
Yeah.
When that's gone, assuming it does go, I think this sort of unit's going to be really good into elves. I think Nids have really good units to deal with them. The Von Ryans, the Lictors with the fights first. They'll just eat the enemy skirmishing units. The Raveners, you can send them out, and then they can come back in the end of your opponent's turn, and then move anyway. Oh no, not move, sorry, because they'll come back in your turn. But I think they're just if they're cheap, a couple of squads of 3 of them.
Yep. Yeah.
Little models.
Yeah.
Snaky boys, big fan. Ripper Swarms, unfortunately, just not competitively viable.
Yeah, sad. I'm a diehard Scarab fan, so I'm always like, oh, Rippers.
Scarabs are very cool. Parasite. Parasite was one of the probably most used models in 9th edition.
It's a brand new one, right? It came out.
Yeah, it hasn't got signups.
So you could use the that enhancement to give it, right?
You know what? Let's just read that. I know Galmaris has said that a couple of times. Yeah. So that does do it. And when you were taking him in your army anyway, you were paying a CP to give him a wall of trait to do some jank anyway. So it kind of goes the same way. It feels really rough that you have to take an enhancement to do that. His profile's pretty whatever. He's got,
He used to do mortal wounds, right? Isn't that his thing?
He had like a tail attack that would do a mortal wound, and then you'd lose objective control potentially and spawn some rippers, and it still kind of does the same thing as that. Start the fight phase, 1 unit within engagement range takes a battle shock test, so you might be able to use him positionally. He is fast. If you pay that upgrade, it might be a good use to spread your signups out. I'm underwhelmed compared to what he is at the moment. He's very useful at the moment. It feels like underwhelmed.
Underwhelmed.
Underwhelmed. Yeah.
It itches though.
It does itches. It does itches. But this is not an army that feels like you need more ways to make your opponents battle shocked.
No.
Like it's like that would be a cool tool for another army. It feels like this army has battle shock out the arse.
I mean, if it's 30 points, then.
Yeah. He's not going to be 30 points, my man.
Wait, mate. 30 points.
He's a flying character.
30 points.
Right now, I think he's like 85 off the top of my head.
Sounds like 30 to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not paying 80 points for that.
Morlock.
Oh.
You've got one of these.
I've got 2 of these, mate.
Show and tell time. Oh, hold on. I've only seen one of them. Right, let's...
Yeah, I've got...
Big screen here.
Here's the box. There we go. See? Look at that.
Oh. Ooh. So that's a shame, because out of the 2 data sheets we're going to look at, this is the worst of the 2.
What's the difference in what it looks like?
The face.
Well, I mean, they can be both the other ones, okay.
Yeah, someone might be able to arrange you some different heads.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Morlock, this one's always been able to come up about 3 inches away. They're not both Trigons because they've got the Morlock heads. I think it's actually a combination of the pieces, Gilmaris, but the face is the bit that makes it too visible.
Sounds to me like no one will know the difference. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If you're playing non-Imperium, you can just say this is a thing, and people will believe you. So this one, it used to come in 3 inches away from your opponent and not be able to charge. Now it doesn't do that. Now the Trigon does that. I don't know why. It does some mortal wounds when it comes up within 12 inches, but that's a very narrow band of space that you can fit enemy models into, because you've got to come in 9 inches away, so it's kind of whatever. It's got a lot of just, anti-infantry attacks. 16 attacks, which is amazing, but it's strength 8, AP 2, 1 damage. That's cool. That's fine.
16 attacks, we'll take it.
But you won't take it because you'll take a Trigon. Because instead you can have 12 attacks, which are strength 9, AP 2, damage 3.
I mean, that's quite nice.
That's so much better, it's not even funny. Like, it's significantly better. And this thing can come in 3 inches away from enemy units, the way that Morlocks used to be able to. And it's OC4, so you can potentially do some shenanigans where you take an objective off them. It's...
They can't charge. Does that work?
If you come in 3 inches away, no. So you can either come in 9 inches away and charge, it's normal, with the deep strike, or you can come in 3 inches away and do some, some mid jank. But you don't get to charge if you do that. Think of it as like the Gene Stealer Cult Deep Strike. You can come in closer, but you don't get to get into.
Why would you be wanting to come in closer then?
Well, let's say they only had like a single model on their objective, and you went, I'm going to 3 inches away from you. Jack says you could rapid ingress at danger close. That is a great point that I haven't considered.
Nice. Yeah.
Gelmaris, you have the same good thought, but you are slower, and therefore your point is worthless. Go back to the drawing board. That's a really good point from both of you. If you can come in the backfield and they think that they've screened you out, but they haven't, because it's really hard to screen out 3 inches. Even with a big base, you can probably find somewhere turn 3, and then you just on your turn go and nom something. That's good.
It feels decent.
Yeah. But yeah, like if you come in on your turn, you can potentially touch their home objective, and they've only got OC 1, 2, or 3 on it, or even 4, and you can take it away from them. That's, worth pissing someone off with.
The Morlock, did that have, what was that ability on the?
Just do some mortal wounds. I'm thoroughly underwhelmed by it. Because it's a 3-inch strip. You've got to be 9 inches away, and then you've got a 3-inch barrier of like up to the 12 inches. And then you've got to roll off. You do some mortal wounds. On a 5+, they have to take a battle shock test. Again, this army doesn't need more ways to force battle shock. It has them out the arse. Take the good models that have them instead of taking the jank models that have them.
Yeah. Okay.
Trigon though, big fan. A lot of high value attacks coming out of that, which we don't see a lot of. It is significantly squishier. It's only T10 instead of T11. 3-up save. But, we'll see what that means. Oh, God.
I got one of those.
You have got one of those. I'm not going to let you show this one off in big screen because I don't think it's worth it for such a naff model. So Spores are back, and they're still doing their jank. There are no rules for having to pay for any models that you bring in as reinforcements that didn't start on your army list at the moment. Maybe that comes in the GT pack, but we will see. They have some rules now. It's the same if you get within 3 inches or they get within 3 inches of you. They explode on a D6, 2 to 5, D3 mortal wounds. On a 6 is D6. Explodes the model. Very cool. This is interesting. Enemy units cannot start or end an advance move within 6 inches of the model.
Yeah, quite a nice little block for some armies.
Yeah. Like, especially, it's going to be hard to stop someone from advancing towards you, I think, because you just kind of go around. They've got such a small move. But if you can somehow get within 6 inches of them, and then they can't run away from you, that's quite funny. They're too scared, yeah. We have then the Spore Mines. It's got the same rules. It's just less mortal wounds. So we should really talk about what Spore Mines do. What Spore Mines do is models in your army generate them, and then you screen out models, and you just are a massive pain in the ass with them. The problem with them is they have OC0, so they can't hold any primary, but they absolutely can score you secondary points as current. I hope this gets fixed, because if it doesn't, you will see Spore Mines in every single list. there will be biovores. It'll be like that 3-month period around LGT where everyone was just running a Spore Assist or biovores or both. I was doing both because I'm a bad person. And you're just going to carpet your opponent with Spore Mines, and no one's going to have a good time. You're losing track. Your Spore Mines are snapping at their, sprues. Like, it's just a terrible time. I took 40 to an RTT the weekend before LGT, and I came back with 24 intact. I went to LGT, and then I did an RTT the day after. I came back with 4 intact. They all snapped. I was just using bases and apologizing to my opponents. It doesn't make a difference because they're so small, but they're such a nightmare to use.
Yeah.
Games Workshop, please fix. I don't want to live that reality again, as much as it wins me games. Exocrine. We are on to another big gun beast.
Okay, I've always been hurt by exocrines. They are quite
Emotionally.
They've been quite mean to me in the past. So are they going to carry on?
They're pretty similar. D6 plus 3 shots.
3 damage, D6
yeah.
plus 3.
833. That's pretty much where they were before. In fact, I think that's exactly where they were. It might have been 6 plus D3, but it was a similar. Still terrible in melee, and they have the rule now where if you shoot a unit, then you get to reroll hits rolls of 1 for the rest of your army against that unit. Nice little buff. You probably don't need it because you're not playing a shooting army.
Yeah,
maybe you take 1 to support the 18 zone throws that you're running.
And 18 Hive Guard?
Yeah, so it's like someone I was arguing with on Reddit earlier. Everything's amazing if you have unlimited points in CP.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a little squishier, but it's a backline bug.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good if we see a lot of nids, for example. That could be something that'd be worth taking.
Yeah.
Biovores. I've briefly touched on what Spore Mines do. Yeah, man. Like, look at this rule. Instead of shooting it, you don't need to know any of this. Like, just know this. Add a Spore Mine unit, and it's 1 model for each model in the unit. So you just put down a Spore Mine for each Biovore, and you start doing your move blocking. You've got to be 9 inches away. Spore Mines now don't have the laundry list of rules that they had before, so they can now move block. They can now... what can they do? They can deep strike screen out. They can score secondary objectives. For the love of God, Games Workshop, fix this rule. It is miserable to have on the table. Like, no one wants to be playing against this. I'm not going to go into any more detail because it's like, what is there to say? Stop blanketing the board with like free tokens.
Which do mortal wounds.
That's the least annoying part of them, which is wild.
Yeah.
Carnifexes we've talked about already.
And what's Blistering Assault?
You what, sorry?
What's Blistering Assault?
Blistering Assault. Oh yeah, true. So if you shoot them, you roll a d6 and add 2, and that model moves towards them.
Oh.
That's just let's have a look here. There's no limit to that. No, there we go. Each unit can only make 1 Blistering Assault move per phase. I was worried that you were just going to move them into your opponent's lines T1, which would have been terrifying. But yeah, so that is funny because if you try and overwatch them at the start of their charge, they will move towards you and then make like a guaranteed charge. Yeah. Or if you overwatch them in your movement phase, their movement phase, sorry, they'll just, again, get closer to you. So only shoot them if you're going to kill them, I think, is the thing there. They do have to get as close as possible to the enemy, though, so limits the jank. Screamer Killer, we've seen it already. This is what I wanted Carnifexes to be. Look, weapon skill 3+. It's got 10 attacks, strength 10, AP 2, 3 damage. You love to see it, but everyone's talked about it already, so let's move on. Hive Guard. Got some of these as well. They have got 2 different weapons. They've got an indirect fire and an anti-vehicle 2+ weapon. Their rule on their data sheet, defensive stance, they're going to be hitting on 5+ in Overwatch or 4+ if they're touching an objective, which is a fairly common rule by the looks of things. Dire Avengers get that as well. And their indirect fire is nerfed through the arse. It is heavy, so it's still hitting on 4s if they stood still, but it's strength 5, AP 1 damage. And then the shot cannon, which is 2 shots, only 24-inch range, needs line of sight, hits on 3, strength 7, AP 1, 3 damage. What do you think of those?
How big can you take the units?
3 to 6.
3 to 6.
Yeah, anything that size is 3 to 6.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the go-to is like in a world where indirect can be good,
Yeah.
if you can spam indirect, and I guess you're thinking, well, how do these guys rank up to a desolator?
Very poorly. I haven't even seen the Desolator data sheet, but it's going to be very poorly.
The fact that I guess they're only hitting on 4s,
Yeah.
-1 damage. You still get cover, right? If you're indirect.
Yeah, so they're effectively
basically no AP.
AP -1 if your opponent if you're shooting into cover, because it's knocks off a pip of AP when you're shooting indirect.
Well, I like the anti-vehicle 2-up element, but then it's only -1.
Yeah, and because you can get cover now pretty easily,
Yeah,
I think a lot of tanks are going to be taking 2 or 3 up saves against it.
exactly. So then it's just like surely on that, you could need more AP. So
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything there that makes me think at top end competitive level, this is what I would want to be taking.
No. I think again they're paying for the sins of 8th edition where they were double shooting non-line of
Yeah,
sight.
exploding as well.
Oh boy, that was a
It's a shame because I have quite a few of those in this box. So.
Yeah, with a mix of.
I also have 2 Tyrannifexes.
Now that you can be happy about. Which weapons have they got? Big screen, big screen. This is an exciting moment for everyone who's watching.
Okay.
So that is the rupture cannon, I believe.
Okay.
I think.
Extra green. And.
I think that's the flamer. I think you've got the 2 good guns.
Yeah, they're 2 definitely different ones.
Yeah. So the first one might have been the flamer. Actually, I will accept that I'm ignorant on that one. I've only got one, and I can't remember what it's equipped with visually. So this thing's a fucking beast. It moves 9, which is fast for the bugs that we've been seeing. It's T12.
Like that. 16
so that's T12. That's on par with a knight. Keep in mind.
Yeah. So
2 up
4
save,
from
16 wounds. OC5, very nice. And then it is -1 damage. This thing is as tanky as a knight. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is an absolute fucking beat stick. So there's 3 weapons. The worst one is the Fleshborer Hive. Heavy, sustained hits 1's twin linked, so you're rerolling wounds, you've got 20 shots. But it's strength 5. It was 24 at the moment. And just still don't take it.
Yeah.
Strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. Whatever. It's fine. Or you could take the Rupture Cannon, as previewed. 2 shots, hitting on 3s, but heavy, so hitting on 2s if you stand still. Strength 18, AP 4,
like that.
which is wild. 2d6 damage, which is again wild, but super stringy, so that's going to have some feel-bad moments for you or your opponent. Or my personal favourite, the Acid Spray, which is d6 plus 6 shots, 18-inch range, torrent, so great for the Overwatch strat. Strength 6, AP2, 2 damage. If you took 2 of these and you had a Hive Tyrant, you could Overwatch twice in your opponent's movement phase. That's annoying.
That's brutal.
Yeah. This is
so
just
annoying.
fantastic.
And especially because your opponent's like, I don't want to have to try and kill these things because they're really hard to kill.
If this is under 220 points, like, fucking, I'm running 3. Like, it's so good. And I can also see them putting the points on the acid spray pretty cheap compared to the Rupture Cannon. Because, like, strength 18, AP 40, d6 damage. Holy shit, that's a big gun. Like, that's the paid upgrade. So, maybe the acid spray doesn't come in too expensive. But yeah, man, this thing is beautiful. I had a lot of fun playing it when I was playing OBSEC Monster Mash. And OC5 is very similar.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, OC5 just feels quite nice, doesn't it?
He's got a big base. He's a big chunky boy. -1 damage is wild. Like, that is so nuts. If you put a Psychophage near him for a 6-up feel of pain, you just feel great about yourself, honestly. Like, this is such a good model. I'm really, really pleased about it. And as you can see here, you can have those. It does have a melee profile. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 802. I mean, you can't ask for much more from something that is very clearly a shooting platform.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that it hits on 3s and it has 4 attacks is like, yeah, cool. Tyrannocyte, this is the drop pod. So this has got the standard rule of it comes down turn 1, no matter what the mission rules are. Here's the thing. There is some jank that we were talking about. Aircrafts currently, if they don't hover, have to start in reserve. This, I think, is a way to bring in an aircraft that isn't hovering on turn 1. So you can, because what it can have is, let's have a look here, a wounds characteristic of 12 or less monster. It doesn't say that there is, yeah, Chris Symbol in chat says, let's see if there's a damage minimum in the universal rules. That is correct. Right now, the Tyrannofex does not take any damage from damage 1 weapons. Obviously, this isn't the intent, so I'm just assuming it'll get FAQ day 1. But that is, it's even more tanky. It's like the Sisters of Battle Nundums that came out. They were just like, no minimum, they're immune. But they've only got 4 wounds. They definitely want them to be immune. Because, fucking, yeah, exactly. So there isn't a damage minimum in the universal rules right now, Chris, but it's obviously intended to be. But yeah, so back to my bullshit. Yeah, you basically, aircraft, if they don't hover, they have to start in reserves. Instead, you can put it in a Tyrannocyte because the only restriction is a monster with 12 or less wounds. The flyers here, you can see, have 12 wounds. You can bring a flyer in turn 1. It doesn't get to move, but it does get to shoot. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Don't do it. It's super inefficient, but
it's a terrible idea. However,
yeah.
I have gained the system, so I should do it.
We're also back to the stacking transports of last edition. You can indeed put a Tyrannocyte inside another Tyrannocyte. There's nothing saying you can't. You could, in theory, put, whatever the cap is going to be on Deep Strike, whether it's, half or a quarter of your army, and just go, it's Tyrannocytes all the way down, baby. And they all just pop out of 1, which would be very funny, but incredibly non-competitive. Any thoughts on drop pods?
As long as there's something good to come out of them, they're useful.
Yeah. Better ballistic skill and weapon skill. Right now, they have 15 attacks, but they hit on 5s. Now they have 5, but they hit on 4s. I'm going to miss the days of just blowing shit up, like popping the last wound on a transport with... it was the Spore Assist, but I killed like a Tau transport with one that hit on 5s. It's just funnier than having a better weapon skill than last shots.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. On to the flyers. Hive Crone. Hive Crone's pretty... Hive Crone's got me feeling a certain kind of way,
I have this. Is this a Hive Crone or a Harpy?
No, so that's a Harpy. And 6 months ago, you'd have been fucking jazzed about that news.
That's sad then.
Right now, you're like, yeah, but, let's see what that Hive Crone doing, though.
So are they the same model with just a different loadout?
Yeah, basically. So the Hive Crone, it gets +1 to hit against targets that can fly. So it's the anti-flyer flyer. A lot of factions got these
Classic.
At some point when I stopped playing the game. But there's, Nids have got them, Marines have got them, yada yada. It's got a Drool Cannon. That is a flamer. 12-inch shots, 2d6, strength 6, AP 1/1 damage. Really synergizing with its rule for +1 to hit against fly. Love that. Stinger salvos. It's just got some chaff shots. And then it's got the Tentaclids. Anti-vehicle 4+ at devastating wounds. Keep in mind that does mean on a 4+ to wound against vehicles, you'll be taking 2 mortal wounds. 4 shots, strength 3, and then the rest is kind of whatever. Melee, again, it's got some attacks, but you're not really ending up in melee with it. I think if this is cheap, this is just a lot of annoying firepower that you can kind of point into your opponent's backline. I expect aircrafts to be bad this edition because you can't pivot before you move. So bombers are immediately worse because you pivot at the end of the move. It's just everything about them's a bit worse.
Yeah.
But out of the 2 flyers, this is the one that I'm like, maybe there's something here. So then we'll just quickly look at the Harpy. Everything's the same.
Because I own one.
Yeah, it can bomb. It used to be roll a d6 for each model up to 10, so now it's capped at... it used to be capped at 6 mortal wounds, now it's realistically going to be 4. But it's more reliable. You can bomb individual model units and still get value. Or you can set up D3 spore mines as if you would do that instead. I guess if you don't bomb anything, which is going to be hard to do now. Then, again, it's got the heavy venom cannon and the stranglethorn cannons. Not only have the profile on those both got worse, instead of having 2 of them, it has twin linked now, which is just, again, worse. So, yeah, instead of having 6 shots, you've got D3 with reroll to wounds. Like, it's just not it.
No.
Put it in the bin, Chris. Put it in the bin.
Yeah, or eBay.
Yes, before people read rules and be the scumbag. I'm not gonna soapbox about the Spore Assist again. Um, I've said, you know, yeah, there we go. I've said how bad the rules are, but I will just point out here, hilariously, instead of shooting, it can use the ability to make a mucilid spore, just one of them. But this thing also lets you shoot up to, 4 times per phase. So if models come nearby, it's what is the range with it? Within 24 inches. If a model moves within 24 inches, it gets to spawn a spore mine instead, and it can do that 4 times a phase. Chris says rules as written, it can charge. That is a great spot. I hadn't even realized. I'm so used to it being just a piece of shit bit of terrain. But yeah, the spore assist with no movement can actually move as long as you get close enough for it to charge. Wild.
It says here you can only make the mucilid spores in your shooting phase.
Yes, but here it says as if it was as if it was your shooting phase, and then in the seed mucilids it says in your shooting phase.
Okay, so that's funny.
So maybe that verbiage doesn't work in 10th, but yeah. Anyway, it's upsetting, so we're going to go past it. Then we've seen the Psychophage. Obviously, we've seen it already. Just going to really highlight again the 6-up Feel No Pain. I think that aura of 6-up Feel No Pain is going to be way more important than it initially seemed. We don't have a lot.
That's on any unit, right?
It's just a 6-inch range, yeah.
But it's not like restricted to certain types of units, so it could be used on your big bucks and stuff.
Yeah. Galmara says Goonhammer didn't read it properly, which I, not gonna lie, had forgotten that they'd be writing rules reviews. I should probably check those out. It's a great way to have someone tell me what to think, and not have to form my own opinions. But that sounded really catty. That's not aimed at Goonhammer at all. That was a dig at myself more than anything else. Psychophage, yep, looking great. And by great, I mean pretty mediocre, but it's giving a Feel No Pain. Barb Gaunt's, again, just to clarify what I said when I was talking to Tom, if you shoot an advancing squad of Death Guard Terminators, they don't move 0 if they roll a 1. They'd only move 1 inch because 5 minus 4 is actually 1 instead of 0. But,
that's mathematics.
Yeah, so if they roll a 1 with their advance, they do still get to move a singular inch, just to clarify for any upset Death Guard players. My apologies. And that's all the rules there. How are you feeling about those?
I think there's I mean, as I said, Tyranids, they've obviously got so many data sheets. So I think there's some really fun stuff there. None of it seems, at first glance, I'm like, oh, well, you can just spam these certain units and you're going to get an incredible amount of efficiency and be able to blow your opponent off the board. Which I guess anytime you get any brand new book, you're looking for that. Like, is there a really broken combo where we can just not even have to play the game? My opponent's dead. And you had the Drakari were able to do it, the Amek were able to do it. You take like these sorts of the 9 Void Weavers were able to do it. There was always something which just made you think, like, if I completely spam this, then I think the match just mathematically
I win.
I win, and I don't even have to play the game. And it doesn't, just at first glance, feel like that. And it feels like there's a few nice buffs. Fully agree that I don't think that shooting just seems very underwhelming.
Yes.
And it's kind of be there incidentally to be a pain, but actually you're going to be fancying a bit of a brawl in the middle. And whether you do it well enough, companies that are more... whereas Nids have always been that kind of do each thing reasonably well, but nothing particularly amazing. It feels like if you're having to lean more into the combat phase, they might just get outfought.
Yeah.
And they don't have the firepower to deal with the people coming to them. So yeah, I'm not thinking that they're going to be right at the top end, but I think there's enough play and versatility that they're going to be really fun.
They kind of feel like the Chaos Knights. They got the Chaos Knights treatment that Chaos got in 9th edition, where they have less straight obvious power, but more like leadership rules. That's a great obvious 1-to-1 comparison. But it feels like they've probably just got more less immediate power, and more jank. Yeah. So we'll have to see how.
And it's all about that synergies, getting things in the right spots for your synapses, and making most of your efficient stratagems.
Yeah.
And all this. And if they're pointed well,
Yeah.
aggressively, then yeah, there's actually a lot of fun tools you could include in
There's
your
no way
army.
they make that mistake twice in a row.
You don't know that.
I do not know that. They've forgotten how to write rules,
Yeah.
which is upsetting.
They don't have the obvious, you know, strength of maybe some of the other armies we've seen, but they're
Yeah.
definitely not going to be near the bottom.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they look good. Innes tweeted today, Tyranids have some fun rules. They'll have a great rule set in 6 months' time, back to painting Space Marines. I paraphrase, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how they do when the top end of the meta gets squished a little bit.
No, absolutely.
Lovely stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We have been nattering for the better part of 2 hours now, so we're going to
Oh, blimey.
wrap it up there. You get to have a night off tomorrow. I don't. I'll be back to talk about Space Marines tomorrow, and I
Nice.
will probably have someone with me, or I might be screaming into the void. Who knows? Who cares? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Boom.